He had his gun, so he just swung it open.
I start to notice that, the atmosphere feels a little bit weird.
First thing he seen was this 6.5 foot tall, broad shoulder, dark hair. That freaked him out.
We hadn't talked to her about like life and death and what any of that means. She's 3 years old,
So we turned around. Suddenly there's a whole tree falling across the road.
And she was describing to us that, there was a deceased person that she could see visually.
You're listening to Cryptid Clues, where we tackle the ever-expanding history and mystery of monsters and supernatural madness every Monday. You can find us at CryptidClues.ca for more information, or even check out exclusive content and support us at patreon.com/CryptidClues.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Cryptid Clues. I am your host, Taylor, and I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. The new year is now upon us, and I'm sure 2025 will be in no short supply of unexplainable phenomenon up in the skies and the oceans and our forests, everywhere in between. Now, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, how all of these UAP, UFO, and drone occurrences that we had, we were kind of sorting it out into like a three-parter. Earlier this month, you'll find our episode focusing on the latest American congressional hearing on UAPs and UFOs. And following that, Reuben joins me, and together we kind of deep dive into these recent sightings, along with a couple more highlights from the congressional hearing. We also dropped a Christmas special episode too for you fine folks. But now we come to the third act of this unidentified sighting spree. There's a lot of convoluted information circulating the World Wide Web right now. Fake videos, interactions generated by either human or AI. It's a really troubling storm to navigate, especially because if we are truly dealing with something beyond human, then we need to start acting a little more responsible about this. But in my own perspective, I feel accountability and responsibility are exceptionally rare traits these days for us as a species and a society, but I digress. Things have begun to run rampant in the skies, but throughout all of the online content, I like to put my merit into airline pilots. Now, months ago, we discussed the audio clips that dropped from Flair and Air Canada pilots that saw a series of unknown flying objects over central Canada. A few commercial pilots I've had the pleasure of speaking to in person have also hinted at things. Not all, but some. Now, what started in New Jersey has just spread like wildfire across the United States and seemingly beyond to other countries as well. But recently, on December 7th and 8th, multiple pilots spotted an unidentified object moving erratically above Oregon. Better yet, we have an audio recording of this scenario. Now, I'm going to play a bit of the audio conversation here, and as you will hear, it's worth reaffirming that air traffic actually advises the pilots to maneuver and avoid hitting the UFO. So I'm going to click it right now.
Had another one show up about my 1 o'clock, about 1,000 feet high, zipping towards us and then back out towards the ocean. It's red in color, moving at extreme speeds. I don't even know how to describe how fast it's moving. 661 on the Fox.
Typical name Foxtrot, Roger. You are cleared to maneuver as necessary, left and right, to avoid the UFO out there, and all the reports you've given us are good information. Appreciate it.
Now, the recording was posted to Reddit initially, and after its examination, the metadata on the file and its information in the recording matched flight records. The pilot's sighting was also confirmed by the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA for short. Now, experts believe that the pilots had spotted Starlink, but they reported seeing red circular lights and objects that were moving erratically. I do not discount the idea that when you're flying 30 to 40,000 feet up high, that things may look differently, including seeing certain reflections off of Starlink as it's orbiting throughout our upper atmosphere. But I'm also convinced that Starlink doesn't move erratically. That's something I've seen with my own eyes. And it's just a straight line of white lights moving in sync. There's no other colored lights or unexpected movements from the Starlink satellites, and that's my own observation as an eyewitness. I'll never forget it. Standing out in the middle of a cornfield waiting to get to a haunted maze for Halloween, and you look up and you're far away from city lights. So you have no light pollution going on in the sky, and up above your heads, you just see a whole row of these white lights moving in one fluid motion together. Nothing erratic and nothing multicolored. Now, I don't expect these so-called expert analysis to be outright lying, But as we learned from the congressional hearing, one of the interviewees, Dr. Tim Gallaudet, accused branches of government engaging in disinformation campaigns to discredit UAP whistleblowers. Granted, that's a very different line of work than an airline pilot. But in my own perspective, I wouldn't put it past whomever these branches are to draw the line at one form of UAP UFO discussion, but all forms of discussion, especially airline pilots. You discredit where you can, and you keep that wheel in motion. Now, these specific sightings took place west from the city of Eugene in Oregon, which is also the second largest city in the state. The city is actually rich in paranormal activity, but in closing on this recording, the full 44-minute clip has proven to be very difficult, at least for me to find now, aside from that small snippet that I was able to locate and share with you guys. But there are a few details that I sourced from the start of that original 44-minute clip that I'm going to share here. At around the 9-minute mark in this clip, roughly 8:39 p.m. PST, a pilot introduces himself using call sign UA1596, a United Airlines flight from Denver to Eugene. The pilot continues by saying, and I quote, "Looking straight west to Eugene, we're seeing 3 or 4 targets. They're at all altitudes, up and down. It's pretty crazy," end quote. The controller replied by saying, and I quote, "Does it look like it's at your altitude?" The pilot said there was some at 30,000 feet probably. They're shooting way up. We say even up to the 50s, it looked like, end quote. Now, I mentioned it before, but 30, 40,000 feet is pretty much the standard for commercial aircraft. 50,000 feet, though, that's the maximum altitude for an F-22 fighter jet. Take into account, that's the maximum altitude. A few minutes fast forwarding into the recording, another pilot jumps on the line identifying himself as Medevac, which is a medical evacuation aircraft. And I quote, "Is there traffic out about our 2 to 3 o'clock at about, 20, 30 miles? No. Is that the 4 different lights going up and down? I'm getting a few reports. Are you seeing it right in front of you as well?" In response, "It's 2 to 3 o'clock from our position. Looks about 20 minutes going in circles," end quote. Now, the medical aircraft was flying south over Albany, Oregon, north of Eugene at around 8:46 p.m. PST. The pilot continued to mention how there was one way up high and one at about my altitude, moving in a circle like a corkscrew pattern. It's the same medical aircraft pilot that you heard in the audio clip that I actually played prior. Now, I have a photo that is appearing here as I speak. Now, this is supposedly an image taken by the pilot who made the report and submitted it to air traffic control. I've included a link below to several posted videos that appear to be from the aircraft cockpit, the same source as the photograph. So you can find that link down below in the description. Now, I said this at the start, but airline pilots, I tend to lean more towards them for things that they see. Now, not everyone gets to fly thousands of feet high up in the air, and it's quite a perspective. And it doesn't surprise me that you'd find things up there that we normally don't see down here. I mean, that's a given. And maybe that's changing. Now I'm going to highlight where things started in New Jersey here so we have some context as we move forward. Now, the first confirmed sighting of an aerial object that I could trace was on November 18th, 2024. However, please note that while that may be the first report, these things could have been appearing sooner before anyone came forward to actually report or announce it. So the first reported sighting is from the Federal Aviation Administration, December 3rd, 2024. Now, New Jersey State Police and the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security put an alert asking the public to report any information related to the recent sightings of possible drones flying in several areas along the Raritan River. They added that witnesses have spotted the cluster of what looked to be drones and a possible fixed-wing aircraft. And the sightings got so bad that the FAA actually issued a temporary flight restriction over the town of Bedminster out of security concerns. The drones have also been spotted near the Picatinny Arsenal, a U.S. military research and manufacturing facility. And I quote, "While the source and cause of these aircraft operating in our area remain unknown, we can confirm that they are not the result of any Picatinny Arsenal-related activities," end quote. That is what Lieutenant Colonel Craig Bonham said in a news statement. Now, regarding these objects' size, most witnesses describe them to be about the size of a bicycle or even a small car, with authorities stating that they are larger than your typical drones used by hobbyists. Come December 11th, United States Coast Guard came forward regarding an incident the weekend prior where a dozen drones followed a motorized Coast Guard lifeboat in close pursuit near the Island Beach State Park in Ocean County. And this is in New Jersey. And more than a dozen drones had trailed very closely to one of the 47-foot vessels. This type of activity prompted Congress to call on the military to shoot down the drones. Even though the aircraft at the time weren't perceived as an immediate threat. On that same day of December 11, 2024, Pentagon spokeswoman Sabrina Singh came forward in a press conference to address several things, including these drone incidents. And I quote, "Our initial assessment is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary." End quote. There was an inquiry to her as well regarding Iran launching a mothership a month prior that contains and dispatches drones off the East Coast to the United States. However, spokeswoman Sabrina quickly responded with, and I quote, "There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States." End quote. A few more sightings to note are as follows. In New York City, several drones were reported flying over the Bronx on December 12th. Stewart Airfield in New York State had to shut down for about an hour on December 13th because of drone activity. That's coming from Governor Cathy. In Connecticut, police confirmed suspicious drone activity. A drone detection system is now in use near the towns of Groton and New London. In Maryland, former Republican Governor Larry Hogan said he saw what appeared to be dozens of drones over his home in Davidsonville. In Massachusetts, 2 men were arrested on December 14th after a hazardous drone operation near Logan International Airport's airspace in Boston. That's coming from police. Multiple sightings have been reported in eastern Pennsylvania, including over Philadelphia. The Wall Street Journal reported that mysterious drones were seen for 17 days near U.S. military facilities in Virginia. And then in Ohio, a U.S. Air Force base was briefly closed on December 13th after small drones were detected flying nearby. More drones were reported on the 16th and 17th of December, although the airbase's operations were not impacted. In late November, drones were spotted also over 3 U.S. air bases in the United Kingdom, with British defense sources telling the BBC that suspicion had fallen on a state actor. Drones were also reported near the Ramstein U.S. military airbase in Germany in early December. Now, I think there are similarities between these New Jersey cases and the cases of, dare I say, weather balloons. Now, speculating it's a foreign adversary or secret advanced tech, the list really does go on. But at its core, and in my humble opinion, after examining the congressional hearing and discussing with Reuben, I suspect we're dealing with something serious, something unknown, and something sentient or self-aware. That doesn't mean alien, but it does not mean alien. It's a little convoluted. What I feel strongly is that there is intelligence to what operates these things, but as we've learned so far, that could be advanced AI, human or non-human, created, extraterrestrial, paranormal, or heck, even something borderline religious like Old Testament. But we know the folks in power that we rely on to give us these answers and preach giving us answers don't always lean that way. I remember when the whole weather balloon fiasco was underway, and in an interview, the press was pushing the military chap for answers with what was really flying around above people's heads. And the military guy just responds with, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, "People have the ability to look up and see for themselves." I mean, good Lord, you pay taxes and you get such a half-assed, unreliable answer from a source that prides itself on reliability and certainties. Just such a dilemma. It's absolutely bonkers. It really paints a picture of misinformation. But throughout all of this chaos, I hope that this information has proven to be somewhat reliable to help everyone listening to be able to form their own perspectives and get a little bit more closer to the truth, whatever that truth may really be. It's just going to be a very interesting new year as we kind of enter into 2025 and see where these sightings go. The downside to all of this is that people have the technology to be flying around drones, and again, they're called hobbyists, and create kind of a ruckus. And if this is a coordinated, I don't want to say attack, a coordinated effort would be the proper term for this, then that is quite the coordinated effort, because they're being able to set up all of these incursions across multiple countries and really stir the pot. that takes a lot of coordinating. And of course, we do live in an age where the kind of coordination might be a little bit easier, but we can't dismiss the fact that these things are maneuvering much more advanced than how regular drones would be. If weather balloons coming from China is any example of spy tech, I mean, then that's me maybe pushing the wire a little bit. I mean, if that's the case, and that's that technology for other countries encouraging onto other foreign soil, it paints a picture that we're not quite there yet. Foreign adversaries technology is not there yet. Our own hobbyist technology is not there yet. Then I'm trying to paint that picture so you can kind of see, like, okay, we are not quite there yet, because these drones are flying up 50,000 feet, the maximum altitude of an F-22 fighter jet. Like, that's definitely that doesn't seem human to me. And we've covered so many other cases where these things are following along and breaking up military aircraft formations and stalking military aircraft. And now we have an account where, they're following Coast Guard? That's very peculiar. So there's still many questions that are on the table, and many things that are just really just poking away at my mind that I hope I can keep digging and get more information from. People ask me, what do you think these things really are? And I defer. I say, well, you know what? Here, like, check out. We did a few episodes on the podcast Cryptid Clues, and you can get a little bit more of a kind of condensed bit of information there to help you form your own opinion. But really, what I think that we're dealing with, like I already said, it's got to be something that is intelligent. But whatever its origin is, I just do not have an answer. I do not. But I am inclined to say that it is not foreign adversary, and it is not drone hobbyists, that we're dealing with something that is a little bit beyond those capabilities and beyond that origin. But I digress. I'm curious to know what you guys think. There's still so much to explore and so much to figure out when it comes to this topic. But this is basically going to cap off our three-parter on this topic. Next week and into the new year, we'll be able to get back into the Sasquatch with a few encounters, so stay tuned for that. And we have a few more extra special things that'll be dropping into the new year as well, just to kind of, get things back into cryptid talk and whatnot, because we've just been focusing so hard on the UAP, the alien, extraterrestrial, UFO topics and whatnot. So I'm excited to see where things go on that front, but we're going to be tackling a whole bunch of other topics too. And yeah, excited to share it with you all. So I hope you all have a wonderful New Year's. I am your host, Taylor, and I can't wait to talk with you guys in 2025. I'm rambling now. I'm just excited. New Year's upon us. It's going to be a great year, hopefully. If you're looking for more Cryptid Clues content, you can find us on our social media channels. And if you wish to reach us directly, you can do so via cryptidclues@gmail.com. So until next time, everyone, Happy New Year's. Take care and stay safe.